For decades, people trusted their computers as personal devices. You bought a PC, turned it on, created an account, and used it however you wanted. Your computer felt like your space. But over the last few years, that relationship has slowly changed. Modern operating systems are becoming more connected, more monitored, and more controlled by online services. Now, a new discussion is spreading across the tech world, and it's making many Windows users nervous. Reports and leaks about mandatory age verification features connected to Microsoft services have started raising serious questions about privacy, freedom, digital identity, and the future of personal computing. Some people believe this is simply a safety feature designed to protect younger users online. Others believe it represents another major step toward turning Windows into a heavily regulated platform where identity checks become unavoidable. And the biggest concern is not just what this feature does today, but what it could evolve into tomorrow. The idea of age verification is not new. Social media platforms, streaming services, gaming networks, and online stores have already experimented with systems that try to confirm the age of users. Governments around the world are increasing pressure on technology companies to protect children from harmful content, online predators, gambling systems, explicit material, and addictive algorithms. In response, tech companies are building tools that can estimate or verify the age of users through IDs, facial scans, artificial intelligence, account histories, or parental systems. But when this concept begins entering the operating system itself, people start paying attention in a completely different way. Windows is not just another app. It is the foundation of millions of computers across homes, schools, offices, and businesses worldwide. If a mandatory verification system becomes deeply integrated into Windows services, it could affect how people create accounts, install apps, access features, play games, browse content, or even use certain parts of the operating system. And that possibility has sparked intense debates across forums, tech communities, privacy groups, and cybersecurity circles. To understand why this topic matters, we first need to understand how modern Windows already works. Years ago, installing Windows was relatively simple. You created a local account and used the computer mostly offline. Today, the experience is very different. Microsoft strongly encourages users to connect their PCs to a Microsoft account. Features like OneDrive, Microsoft Store, Xbox integration, cloud syncing, AI assistance, subscription services, and device security all revolve around an online identity. In many newer Windows installations, creating a local offline account is becoming harder than before. Some users even feel pushed toward permanent cloud-connected usage. This shift changes the role of the operating system. Windows is no longer just software running on your hardware. It has become a connected ecosystem linked to identity systems, cloud infrastructure, behavioral analytics, and online services. Once identity becomes central to the platform, age verification becomes technically easier to implement because the system already knows who you are, what services you use, and how your account behaves. Supporters of age verification argue that this is necessary for modern internet safety. They point out that children are accessing content never intended for them. Online scams targeting minors are increasing. Harmful communities spread dangerous trends. Predators use gaming chats and messaging systems to exploit younger users. Many governments are demanding stronger protections. Companies like Microsoft are under pressure to comply with new regulations. In this view, age verification is not about surveillance. It is about responsibility. But critics argue that once identity verification systems exist, they rarely stay limited. History shows that digital systems tend to expand over time. Features introduced for safety often evolve into systems for monetization, tracking, moderation, restriction, or compliance. What begins as optional can slowly become mandatory. What starts with one service can spread across the entire ecosystem. Some privacy advocates worry that mandatory age verification could normalize ID-based internet access. Instead of anonymous browsing and independent computing, users may gradually enter a world where every digital activity is linked to verified personal identities. They fear this could destroy one of the original freedoms of the internet, the ability to explore, learn, communicate, and create without constantly proving who you are. Another major concern involves data collection. Age verification systems require information. Sometimes this means uploading government IDs. Sometimes it involves facial recognition scans. Other systems use AI models trained to estimate age based on facial structure, voice patterns, browsing habits, or account behavior. Every additional layer of verification creates another layer of sensitive data. And in an era where data breaches happen constantly, many people do not trust corporations to securely manage identity databases forever. Imagine a future where logging into your computer requires not only a password, but also proof of age tied to official documents. Imagine certain applications becoming restricted unless the operating system verifies your identity category. Imagine AI systems analyzing your behavior to determine whether you qualify for certain content or features. For some people, this sounds reasonable. For others, it sounds like the beginning of a deeply controlled digital environment. One reason this topic became so explosive is because trust in big technology companies has already weakened. Over the years, users have seen controversial updates, telemetry collection, advertising integration inside operating systems, forced online services, and AI features added without clear consent. Many Windows users already feel that the operating system is becoming less about user control and more about platform management. So when people hear words like mandatory verification, they immediately assume the system may eventually become unavoidable. This fear becomes even stronger when combined with recent global trends. Governments worldwide are introducing online safety laws, digital identity frameworks, and internet regulations. Some countries are discussing mandatory age checks for social platforms. Others are pushing biometric verification systems for online access. The broader technology industry is moving towards stronger identity-based ecosystems. Microsoft is not operating in isolation. It exists inside a larger transformation happening across the digital world. Artificial intelligence also changes the situation dramatically. In the past, verifying identity at large scale was difficult. Today, AI systems can process faces, voices, documents, and behavioral patterns almost instantly. This makes age estimation systems far more practical than before. But it also introduces massive ethical concerns. AI systems are not perfect. They can misidentify users, misclassify ages, or discriminate unintentionally. False positives could lock people out of services or restrict access unfairly. There's also the question of digital permanence. Once biometric or identity systems become tied to operating systems, reversing them becomes difficult. Technology companies rarely remove infrastructure they spent years building. Instead, they expand it. A verification system introduced for child safety today could later support advertising targeting, regional restrictions, financial verification, workplace monitoring, or government compliance systems tomorrow. Some cybersecurity experts warn about another danger entirely. Centralized identity systems create extremely valuable targets for hackers. Databases containing IDs, biometric information, facial scans, and verification records would become prime targets for cybercriminals. The more sensitive data companies collect, the greater the consequences when breaches happen. And history shows that even major corporations with enormous resources are not immune to leaks and attacks. At the same time, others argue that resistance to age verification is exaggerated. They believe critics are imagining dystopian futures that may never happen. They point out that online identity systems already exist everywhere. Smartphones already collect huge amounts of data. Social media platforms already track behavior extensively. Banking apps already require identity verification. In their eyes, operating systems adapting to modern regulatory requirements is simply inevitable. This creates a deeper philosophical debate about technology itself. What should a personal computer actually be? Is it a private tool fully controlled by the owner? Or is it a connected service platform managed collaboratively between users, corporations, and governments? Different generations answer this question differently. Older tech enthusiasts often remember a more open computing era where users had far greater control. Younger users who grew up with cloud ecosystems may view identity-linked systems as normal. The business side of this issue is also important. Microsoft is no longer only selling Windows licenses. The company now focuses heavily on services, subscriptions, cloud infrastructure, AI integration, enterprise ecosystems, and long-term user engagement. Identity systems strengthen these business models because verified accounts create deeper integration across products and services. A tightly connected ecosystem increases user retention and platform dependency. Critics say this economic incentive may gradually push operating systems away from user freedom. They worry that once every feature depends on cloud accounts and verification systems, users lose meaningful ownership of their own devices. If access to features can be controlled remotely, then control ultimately shifts toward the platform provider rather than the device owner. This conversation also connects to digital rights. Some activists argue that anonymous access to information is a fundamental part of freedom in the digital age. They fear that identity verification systems could discourage free expression, whistleblowing, political discussion, and personal exploration. When users know every action might be tied to verified identities, behavior changes, people become more cautious, more filtered, and sometimes more afraid. At the same time, parents and educators often support stronger safety systems. They see the internet exposing children to harmful content at younger and younger ages. Many families struggle to manage online risks. From this perspective, stronger age controls seem reasonable and necessary. This is why the debate remains so divided. Both sides believe they are protecting something important. One side focuses on safety and accountability. The other focuses on privacy and freedom. Another issue rarely discussed is accessibility. Verification systems may create problems for users without government IDs, stable internet access, modern cameras, or consistent documentation. Millions of people globally rely on shared computers, older hardware, or limited digital infrastructure. Mandatory verification could unintentionally exclude vulnerable populations from technology access. Gamers are paying close attention too. Microsoft owns major gaming platforms and services connected to Windows and Xbox ecosystems. Age verification systems could affect online gaming communities, multiplayer communication, purchases, streaming, mods, and access to mature rated content. Gaming communities have historically resisted systems they perceive as restrictive or invasive. Educational institutions may also face challenges. Schools rely heavily on Windows devices. If verification systems become integrated into education-focused environments, questions about student privacy, parental consent, and data management become even more sensitive. Managing identity information for minors requires extremely careful handling. There's also an international dimension to this story. Different countries have very different views on digital identity and privacy. Some governments strongly support centralized identity systems. Others prioritize personal privacy rights more heavily. Microsoft operates globally, which means the company must navigate conflicting laws, cultural expectations, and political pressures. Features implemented in one region could eventually influence policies elsewhere. The future of operating systems may depend heavily on how users respond right now. Technology companies often move in the direction users tolerate. If people accept increasingly strict verification systems without resistance, more aggressive identity integration could follow. But if public backlash becomes strong enough, companies may limit or redesign these systems to protect user trust. Open source communities are watching these developments carefully as well. Systems like Linux often attract users who value customization, transparency, and independence from large corporate ecosystems. Whenever concerns about surveillance, restrictions, or forced integration appear in commercial operating systems, interest in open source alternatives tends to increase. Some users see decentralized software ecosystems as protection against excessive corporate control. However, mainstream adoption remains difficult because ecosystems like Windows dominate compatibility, gaming, productivity software, and enterprise environments. Most users stay with familiar platforms even when they disagree with certain changes. This gives major companies enormous influence over the future direction of computing. One of the biggest unanswered questions is how far verification systems could eventually go. Would they remain limited to age-sensitive services? Could they expand into identity scoring systems? Could AI moderation tools automatically restrict access based on estimated demographics or behavioral profiles? These possibilities may sound extreme today, but many technologies that seemed impossible a decade ago are now normal parts of daily life. Consider how rapidly facial recognition evolved. Years ago, it seemed futuristic. Today, people unlock phones with their faces. Airports use biometric scanning. Stores experiment with AI surveillance. Social media platforms automatically recognize faces in photos. Technology changes social expectations faster than most people realize. The same could happen with operating system verification. Small optional features introduced quietly today may become expected standards tomorrow. Once enough services depend on identity infrastructure, opting out becomes harder. Convenience slowly transforms into dependence. Another factor driving concern is transparency. Users often feel that major technology changes arrive without clear explanations. Terms of service are long and confusing. Privacy policies are difficult to understand. Features appear gradually through updates. Because of this, people sometimes assume the worst when new verification systems are discussed. Lack of trust amplifies fear. Clear communication matters enormously in situations like this. If companies explain exactly what data is collected, how it is stored, who can access it, and whether users truly have choices, public anxiety may decrease. But when communication feels vague or incomplete, speculation grows rapidly online. Cybersecurity professionals often emphasize an important principle. Every new system introduces new attack surfaces. Verification infrastructure is not just a policy issue. It is also a technical risk. The more complex operating systems become, the more potential vulnerabilities exist. Identity systems connected to cloud services create additional pathways attackers may attempt to exploit. Some experts predict that the future internet may eventually split into two models. One model would prioritize verified identity, regulation, moderation, and centralized control. The other would prioritize decentralization, anonymity, privacy, and user autonomy. Different platforms may position themselves differently along this spectrum. The debate surrounding Microsoft's verification efforts reflects a much larger transformation happening across technology. This is not only about one company or one feature, it is about the evolving relationship between users, corporations, governments, and digital identity. The decisions made today could shape how future generations experience computing itself. Will personal computers remain truly personal? Will anonymous internet access survive long term? Will convenience and safety outweigh privacy concerns for most users? Or will growing resistance push technology back toward user-controlled systems? Nobody fully knows the answers yet. What is clear is that society is entering a new phase of digital life where identity, AI, regulation, and online behavior are becoming increasingly interconnected. The operating system sitting on your desk is no longer just software. It is becoming part of a much larger network of data, services, policies, and algorithms shaping modern life. For users, the most important thing right now is awareness. Understanding how these systems work matters more than blind fear or blind trust. Technology changes rapidly, but informed users still have influence. Public discussions, privacy advocacy, open standards, transparent regulation, and consumer choices all shape how technology evolves. The future of Windows, and perhaps the future of computing itself, may depend on whether users continue demanding balance between safety and freedom, convenience and privacy, innovation and control. Because once systems of verification become deeply embedded into digital life, reversing them may be far more difficult than anyone expects. And that is why this conversation matters far beyond a single operating system update. It represents a turning point in how society defines digital identity, ownership, privacy, and trust in the modern age.